What's up, guys? In this video we're going to be talking about Call of Duty 2019 and about Modern Warfare 4. So we got quite a bit of information about this game coming up in 2019, this year's Call of Duty game, and why it's going to be Modern Warfare 4, and a whole bunch of news and stuff. So first off, the reason why it's going to be Modern Warfare 4 and not Ghost 2 is actually coming from Kotaku's Jason Schreier. He is an industry insider. He knows a lot about the industry. He's gotten so many things right about basically everything in the industry. So he's reported on lots of different sources throughout the industry, and not just in the Call of Duty sphere. And he has an amazing track record. So he's down to everything between every different game studio, and also with huge publishers, and also with console manufacturers and people like Microsoft and Sony and stuff. So he has sources everywhere. He's a really reliable guy. So if he says something, I pretty much fully trust him. But what he says about Call of Duty 19 is that it ain't Ghost 2. And this isn't really that big of an inside information, because basically anybody could have said this, and it wouldn't have been that big of a shock to anybody, because Ghosts wouldn't really be a game that I don't think Activision would ever really consider making again. Ghosts was one of the poorest received Call of Duty games basically ever. It was the first Call of Duty game that really just kind of bombed. We've had Call of Duty games that, the community hasn't liked a lot. In its prime, Black Ops 2, a lot of people complained about it, but I don't think that it bombed. I think Ghost was the first one that really kind of set the community basically on fire. So, a lot of the community actually went back to Black Ops 2 for, the first time ever. The community finally went back to the previous Call of Duty game, and they've never really done that before. They've always moved on to a new one. And yeah, so that's kind of why a lot of people were like, oh yeah, well that's why Infinite Warfare was made, was they were going to make a Ghost 2. The campaign sets up a Ghost 2, but obviously they didn't make one, and instead Infinite Warfare came out, and Infinite Warfare I think was an even bigger kind of flop for the community than Ghosts was. So it's pretty much safe to assume we're not going to get an Infinite Warfare 2, and he says we're not going to get a Ghost 2, so what are we going to be getting? It's either going to be a game set in the Modern Warfare franchise, or we're going to be getting an entirely new IP. So Activision Blizzard had an earnings call where they actually talked about this year's Call of Duty game, and they confirmed that there's going to be a new Call of Duty game coming out this fall, developed by Infinity Ward. All stuff we really knew, although it wasn't officially confirmed. It was 99% confirmed at this point. But the Activision Blizzard CFO says that this year's Call of Duty game 2019 is, quote, rooted in franchise history, and that they have, quote, high expectations for this game. So, the high expectations for this game, that quote doesn't really mean a whole lot, because it's he's obviously going to upsell the game, and he's not going to say, oh yeah, this game, it's going to be a mediocre game, it's not going to be as good as Black Ops 2, but you guys should still buy it. Obviously he's going to, promote it and say, oh yeah, it's going to be a great game. But when he says that it's rooted in franchise history, that's what really means something. So that means that, this game is actually going to be having connections to other games in the franchise. So what else could they do? They could either do, Modern Warfare, and that's the most likely candidate of how it, relates to other games in the franchise, and how it's rooted in franchise history. And since we know it's not Ghost 2, and it's really unlikely that it's Infinite Warfare 2, technically it could be Infinite Warfare 2, but I don't think Activision wants to, completely commit suicide by releasing Infinite Warfare 2. That'd be the worst decision they could ever make. It's pretty much safe to assume that it's going to be Modern Warfare 4. But he also says in this that they say, we have high expectations for this game, but for modeling purposes, we are conservatively planning on upfront Q4 unit sales to be lower than Black Ops 4. So Activision themselves aren't, really thinking that this year's game is going to be really that much higher selling than Black Ops 4 is, which is kind of disappointing. But then again, Call of Duty has been on the downslope for the past several years, so it's not really anything new, but I thought I'd point it out nonetheless. So also during this call, Activision's president, Rob Kostich, says that this year's Call of Duty game will have, quote, an entirely new campaign, a huge and expansive multiplayer world, and some fun co-op gameplay. So this is really exciting. He actually confirms that this year's game will have a campaign, which, if you guys remember back to Black Ops 4, Black Ops 4 doesn't have a campaign, and that was a huge decision. It was the first Call of Duty game without a campaign, and a lot of people really hated that decision, that they're finally getting rid of the campaign. And, a lot of the Call of Duty campaigns are actually really good, but then there's ones like Black Ops 3 that were just honestly pretty terrible. And I you know, if they didn't have a Black Ops 3 campaign, I probably wouldn't have cared whatsoever. But it's good that we're at least going to be getting the campaign. That's nice. He also says a huge and expansive multiplayer world, so multiplayer should be awesome. Doesn't really give much details other than it's huge and expansive. So what does that exactly mean? What, a lot of multiplayer maps, a lot of weapons, and he says in some fun co-op gameplay. So we already have rumors and talk that we're not actually going to have zombies in this year's Call of Duty game, which I've already made a video about that and discussed my opinions over on a separate video. And then he even goes on to say that it's worth mentioning again, this fall's launch I think is going to resonate very powerfully with our community. It is an amazing game. So what could resonate very powerfully with the community other than Modern Warfare 4? Obviously Ghost 2 and Infinite Warfare 2 probably wouldn't resonate very well with the community. The community probably wouldn't be having that, you know, very much. The community would probably just about die. The whole community would just roll over and die, and Call of Duty would be done. And we have a lot of hints that reveal that this year's Call of Duty game is going to be Modern Warfare 4. And at another point in the call, there was actually like a huge hint that this year's Call of Duty game is actually going to be Modern Warfare 4, and that's that at a certain point during the call, one of the executives was in the middle of saying like, this year's Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Modern, and then it like cut off right there because obviously they realized their mistake and they like, you know, muted it, or they like he stopped talking or whatever. And so that's a huge indicator as to this year's Call of Duty game is going to be Modern Warfare 4. And then lastly is just that with this call, they were really just like hyped about this year's game. They're saying that, you know, there's a lot of internal enthusiasm about it, and that there's, you know, so much enthusiasm than they can, you know, ever remember, and that everybody's more excited about this year's game than like any other, you know, previous game before it. So like I said, all that doesn't really mean a whole lot because it's like obviously they're going to try and promote their game, and they're going to say that, oh yeah, this year's game is great, everybody's really excited for it. They're not going to say, oh yeah, our employees really don't like working on this game. It's, you know, and it's honestly a mediocre title, but you guys should buy it nonetheless. Like obviously they're going to oversell it and they're going to hype it up. So we'll just have to see for ourselves. Hopefully the reveal trailer will come soon. I'm really excited about this year's game. I hope it's a good one. And I want to know your guys' thoughts about this in the comments down below. What do you guys think about this year's game? Do you guys want it to be Modern Warfare 4, or would you rather see like a Ghost 2 or Infinite Warfare 2? Let me know in the comments down below all your thoughts about this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.